Hello and welcome to episode 13 of Armchair Analysts podcast. Lucky number 13. I'm your host, Johnny, and with me always is...
Ace.
All right, buddy. We've kind of gotten into a groove doing our personal Corona updates, so why don't we start off there? Personally, here in Madison, it feels like the quarantine's pretty much lifted because I have not seen this many people outside or this many people driving in weeks. Yeah, it's weird. It's really weird. I almost had to stop on the Beltline, actually, in traffic on the way home and to work. So, I mean, normally I can just cruise at like 75 and just fly by everything, but yeah, it's weird. I'm not used to it. I'm used to be able to just drive at whatever speed and whatever lane I want, but now there's actually other people to contend with, so.
I guess I could probably say the same. My buddy and I have been going up to the park to hit balls, golf balls, and there's a ton of people out walking, biking, whatever the heck it is too, around the lakes, chain of lakes in Minneapolis. So I kind of agree with you to some degree, but I honestly, at this time of the year, everybody's probably going to be out in Minnesota no matter what.
Yeah, well, and it's kind of just like torturing us a little bit and just tempting us to go outside because, you know, as I don't know about Minnesota, but we got the safer at home quarantine extended through May. So, and there obviously we've had a lot of political unrest at the Capitol. A lot of people are pretty.
Are they protesting?
About it,
I've seen some protests in Michigan and I think Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, in Wisconsin's been relatively. I mean, we plateaued and it's been pretty calm for a little bit. So I think people are just like, you know, what gives? Let's just go and get this over with. But I mean, with politics aside, I mean, I don't like the way things are going.
Yeah.
I don't like being kept away from people, but I understand the caution and the ramifications.
I think my roommate and I reached a boiling point this weekend because I'm not sure if I mentioned the last episode, but we put a 100-pound heavyweight bag in the garage to box with. But over the weekend, after a couple pops, Saturday night, we decided to go at it in our kitchen. And I got a nice gash on my forehead, some bruised ribs. It was,
Wait, that thing fought back?
Yeah, we were like choking each other out. It was serious, but yeah, it was pretty intense and a little out there. But you know, I blame COVID.
I mean, if we need to add an MMA section to the podcast, we can do that. I mean, if that's the route you're marking down. That being said, if you are not already following us, please give us a follow and tell us what you think of us. We're on Twitter at AA Podcast, and we're literally on every possible platform, whatever you listen to, you know, ranging from Apple all the way to Deezer and everything in between. So whatever you like to listen to, feel free to hit us up. We're also on YouTube as well. Armchair Analysts is the name of the channel. We also post every show weekly on YouTube. So however you like to listen, feel free. We got it there for you. Without further ado, I think it's time to talk about the streaming sensation, the ESPN hit documentary Last Dance, featuring Michael Jordan.
So quick start. Last Dance, the actual Phil Jackson came up with that title in the 97, prior to the 97-98 season, coincidentally. He coined, so every year he used to give like a buzzword or a phrase of thing like that year's objective, basically. And going into that season, the GM of the Bulls, Jerry Krause, basically said, I don't care if you win, if you go 82-0, you're not coming back. So, and this was during I think this was over the summer. And so Phil Jackson, as zen-like as he is, put The Last Dance. And he had like a binder and everything that he showed on the documentary in the first episode, basically highlighting, this is proof that we have documentation of it. But yeah, it was fascinating. It started off first, obviously highlighting Michael Jordan's career at North Carolina, which I think really set the tone, kind of set the overall tone of how he went about his business in the NBA, because he head coach Dean Smith, Hall of Famer. He had James Worthy, another NBA Hall of Famer, as well as I think a college basketball Hall of Famer, who was a couple years older than him. And oh gosh, I think his name's Robert Parrish, or I'm blanking on another guy. There's another great player that was also an upperclassman at Jordan. So as he came in as a freshman, he got to learn under some great guys. And uh, fast forward a little bit as he's with the Bulls. That first year he gets drafted in 1984. he at one point in the show describes a time where they're on the road and every single one of the Bulls players at that time is in the hotel room, and he's like, yeah, you got your cocaine guys on this side, you got your weed smokers here, you got your alcohol, and he's
just like in
and
college.
He's like,
wow.
I'm leaving, I'm not going to associate myself. Like he actually did the right thing in that moment, walked out of there. And what's interesting is you could tell just from how he was explaining that those guys weren't motivated at all on the team. And this was before, like, obviously Scottie Pippen was even drafted. Dennis Rodman,
yeah, the early days where it was like when it was just him putting everyone on his back and putting up amazing performances, but they still lost because it was literally just Jordan and plus 11.
Yeah, and it's just it's interesting, and obviously I think you've probably heard some rumors about the hatred and dislike for Jerry Krause, the GM, but I think the owner, Jerry Reinsdorf, has to take a lot of this blame because Michael broke his foot. I think it was in like the 86th or 85th, his second or third year in the league. He breaks his foot. Team's not playing for anything, and they hold him to basically a minutes restriction down the stretch. They ended up getting into the playoffs, though, because he just went berserk. But right there, that whole shutting him down, he was adamant about wanting to play, I think that kind of paved the way for those comments that I alluded to earlier about what the GM Jerry Krause said about Phil Jackson is, doesn't matter, you're not coming back. I want to break this team up and show that I put you guys together and I also can put something else together. So you could tell there's some jealousy.
But that completely makes sense. Like any real competitor in any sporting, no matter what sport it is, if they're a real competitor and they're being held out for like just a personal spite, like then I mean, I understand maybe some of the comments he made after the fact weren't so nice, but I understand it. And if you're ever going to personify competitiveness, it's going to be Jordan. Like there's a lot of football players that come to mind, and a lot of baseball players that come to mind, but like if you could only pick one player, it would have to be
absolutely.
Jordan, I think. So if you're gonna do that, I mean, you kind of have to know that there's gonna be some flames coming back at you, right?
Well, and that's why like I said, I think Jerry Reinsdorf's more to blame because he was the one that put the minutes restriction in place. It wasn't Krause, but there was clearly some bad blood with the front office and the players, especially. Like Jordan would joke to Krause like during pregame warmups while they're waiting in the tunnel. Hey, you want to do layups with us? We'll lower the hoop for you. Like just he jab at him nonstop, and so would Scottie Pippen. So it's like clearly, if your two superstars are doing it, nobody else is really going to respect him.
Yeah. So we got the first two episodes already released. We got how many more total are there?
10. I thought they said.
Is it 10? Okay. And they're just doing 2 per weekend kind of thing?
Yeah, it must be. I was surprised they did that, but yeah.
Okay. I didn't look at the schedule, but that's awesome. So we'll get something that and the thing is they've already covered a lot. So I mean, it'll be interesting to see how specific and deep they get into within each episode. So something nice to look forward to. It came up during a perfect time when a lot of people have quite a bit of free time and already streaming and or watching TV. So
tons
works
of
out pretty well. Well, speaking of streaming, we have a draft coming up next week that is going to be entirely virtual for the first time. And a lot of teams trying to work out the kinks, at least the IT aspect. You get your old men in the war room trying to get everything settled, and some going a lot better than others. Some people streaming blank screens, some people having no audio, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, working in IT, I know that no matter how much you prep, there is still a very good chance that something's going to go wrong. So it'll be interesting to see how that happens Thursday night once the draft kicks off. But at least we still have a little bit more time to speculate as far as, checking over mocks and all that good stuff and seeing what your team can do and what kind of picks they have available. But I mean, Caesar's already getting after it. They've released the projected win totals, and the odds makers have the Patriots to win 8.5 games, which is the lowest total since 2003. Wow. So, I mean, and they specifically cited kind of what we were all thinking. There's not a whole lot to the team, minus Brady now. The secondary is, definitely top tier, but that offense is it's rough. It's rough. Even with Belichick working his magic, plugging and playing any player at whatever position and finding results. You saw towards, there was multiple games that when the defense wasn't able to stifle a crappy team and they actually played a legitimate offense, they struggled. So it'll be interesting. And the Buffalo Bills are projected to win the division.
Woo!
So their projected win total is 9. So Bills Mafia, baby. Let's go.
Wow, I'm surprised that's not higher.
Give them something.
I feel like there should be 9.5, 10 even. But
it was kind of just because they had like a feast or famine team. Like you saw, like even against the Texans, that not even taking any regular season performances, just that playoff game, how quickly they got off to a great start, but they have trouble closing. They have trouble finding other avenues of success. Like if they get really good in the offense, they struggle on defense, or they're the passing game's going great, but they can't control the clock for shit. So. I think it's just that inconsistency that they saw. And, I mean, it's not like the Bills, went out and really made a bunch of moves, at least in free agency. Not to say that's how you win Super Bowls, but,
You don't think Stephon Diggs?
I guess there was kind of a... Yeah, I mean, again, they've had good wide receivers, and they've had good threats, but I hate to throw a young QB under
this will be
under the bus, but, I mean, Yeah, and you know what? He's proven that he can do things when it comes down to it. He has a little bit of the clutch gene in him, but I think I think it was more like an addition by subtraction thing for the AFC East. Tom Brady's gone, so everyone else inherently is better off. I think that was more the take. But New England South, aka the Bucs, which we'll touch on a bit later, they have a projected win total. I think by Brady alone, even prior to the news that was made a couple hours ago, they're 9 games they're projected to win and predicted to make the playoffs for the first time since 2007. So,
and I like the tease too with news just coming out.
Yeah, man. I mean, even in high school, the girl said I was a tease. So, I mean, why not drag it out into my 30s? Perfect.
I was just too direct.
But yeah. Well, I gotta give myself a little self-deprecation here. So you know what? With all this stuff going on and all of the wild cards and all of the unknown with this draft coming in, and you got to remember, we have not seen college football since the new year.
Yeah,
really. So it's been a while since we've seen some of these players, so it's kind of hard to remember. So it's. And there's a lot of moves that have been made already. You got picks flying everywhere. A lot of teams that don't have a first rounder. So we're looking to make some trades, possibly trading up, trading back, trying to acquire more capital. So there's a lot going on. But luckily for us, we have a special treat this week. We have someone here who can shine the light on our poor, stupid minds into what's actually going on. We have Vegas Vern. So, just a quick background, radio personality, avid sports bettor. This guy, he's been around the block, he knows what's going on, and lives in Vegas. So, he's got kind of a nice way to give us a little background. So, I thought it was nice. We actually have a nice little interview that Ace and Vern had earlier today, just to give us a better look at the atmosphere in Vegas, the projected win totals, an idea of how the virtual draft is going to go, especially with we got a few free agent pawns left on the board. So without further ado, we'd like to present a little bit of a previously recorded interview with our new Vegas source, Vegas Vern.
Let's kind of kick it off. What made you move down to Las Vegas then?
Well, it was back in the late 80s. I was at a fight that was up in the Catskill Mountains, and I had talked to people like Freddie Roach, who was also a Las Vegas resident. I talked to Tony the Tiger Baltazar. He was involved in the fight, and he was from the Phoenix area, Arizona area, and I talked to a couple other people that were from Arizona, but I liked what I heard about Vegas more than I liked about Phoenix, so I decided to move to Las Vegas back in the late 80s.
Oh, wow. Okay. Did you have any idea at that point you wanted to get into sports betting, or did that just kind of happen given the atmosphere?
Well, basically what happened was the guy that was from Vegas mentioned sports betting, good weather, and the Catskill Mountains had neither. So it wasn't a hard decision.
Well, especially when you're meeting the likes of Freddie Roach.
Yeah. Well, at that particular time, he was training a guy named Virgil Hill, who was from North Dakota, and that was his big prospect. And then years later, he wound up getting Manny Pacquiao, who's his biggest star. And Manny just fought a year ago, so that was pretty cool.
Okay. I'm glad you mentioned Manny Pacquiao because I forgot that was one of his more recent ones. So obviously you're into boxing a lot. What about anything else, or what do you usually gravitate to sports-wise?
Okay, well, in my case, I'm a fanatic of the MMA, NASCAR, and horse racing also.
Oh, nice. Awesome. So obviously with the NFL draft coming up this Thursday, have you looked at any prop bets or any sort of bets out there for that? Or what are your thoughts overall on the draft, especially being that it's virtual?
Right. Well, as far as the actual draft, no interest in the gambling portion of it.
Yeah.
I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan, and I feel we need a quarterback, even though they want to pay him outrageous, which is ridiculous. I see this as a heavy draft in the quarterback position. Obviously, Cincinnati Bengals are in dire need of one, and they got the best one possible. I mean, that kid, Joe Burrow, he had the year. I've never seen a college career end on such a great note. That kid had the most fantastic season ever. So if the Bengals don't make a stupid decision, they should obviously get him. Tua from Alabama is going to be a great quarterback. Herbert from Oregon Ducks is a tremendous quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Jacob Eason from Washington is an excellent quarterback. There's a lot of good quarterbacks in this draft, but they're also deep at wide receiver. So this is going to be really we're going into a new phase as far as wide receivers are faster than ever. These kids are just lightning quick. And as Kansas City has shown that if you have a track team, you could also win the NFL, championship. So the route they went, and if they get a kid from like Alabama, they could be unstoppable.
Yeah. It sounds like you want the Cowboys to draft a QB. Do you think that's even likely for them? Obviously, probably in the later rounds, maybe.
The problem is this: I don't know them personally. I'm just a fan.
Yeah.
If I saw Jerry Jones, I'd tell him, please do not sign Prescott to any contract. But because I don't think it's not that he's garbage. It's just that I feel that he's not elite. He's not Aaron Rodgers.
Yep.
He's not Tom Brady. He's not Drew Brees.
Yeah.
And when you start the season off 3-0 and then end up 8-8, I don't believe you deserve a salary hike. I want you to get a salary decreasement. So, yeah.
It should be the top 6 teams in each division that make the playoffs. The Eagles should not have made it, and the fact that both them and the Cowboys, I know the Eagles were banged up, but both teams had pretty deep rosters for the most part, but they just overpay at a lot of positions that aren't really valued that highly anymore.
Correct. Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
As far as Philadelphia, though, winning the division, I feel that Carson Wentz is a much better quarterback than Dak Prescott. Believe it or not, his career record's not that great against him, but that's going to start changing. You got to understand the kid's been beat up really bad. And he got very little credit for winning that Super Bowl because if it wasn't for his accomplishments, Nick Foles wouldn't have been in the position to have a 3-game season, to do what he did. Yeah. Carson Wentz really made that team elevate to where they got. Foles had the game of his life in that Super Bowl on top of it. And then Brady lit up 500 yards, but Nick Foles just just was out of his mind that game, you know. So it was like,
Yeah.
you know, but you know, he had a career couple of weeks. Brady's had a career from another planet, you know. So.
Well, hey, speaking of that, this is the first time in a while, I think, that the Patriots are, in terms of win total, they're, I think, below 10 or something. They're at like 8.5. And obviously the Bucs now with Brady, I think, are at 9.5.
Right. Well, that's funny you mentioned that, because I didn't even know those two totals as of late, since you know, pretty much when Brady signed, we didn't know what, you know, I was looking at Brady going to be a Raider the whole time, and I was looking at prop bets where, like, if Brady went to the Raiders, if the New England had played Oakland with Brady, signing with Oakland, they would have been an 11-point underdog prior to the Brady signing. But since he went to Tampa, because they put up that prop bet up there, I was like, my God, if Brady gets 11 points in any game, that's criminal. Because did you know last year he was 17? No, I take that back. It was 17. He was a favorite 17 consecutive games. He was never in the underdog role the whole season at 42 years old. I mean, you're talking about no game where he was even a 1-point underdog, a 2-point underdog. Now you're going to get him at double digits.
Yeah.
I mean, as well as he prepares for any game, I mean, most likely, you know, even the games they lost with New England, I mean, Miami, they were like 16-point underdogs. And they, you know, I mean, Fitzpatrick played the game of his life. And then Tannehill had a decent playoff run. You know, they were getting 5 in the playoff game. And if you remember, they started the season off 8-0, and Lamar Jackson was the first team to beat them. Yeah. And that was like on a Monday night game, and the atmosphere was tremendous. It was a good spot to beat New England.
To kind of wrap things up, I wanted to go back to like the overall scene in Vegas. What has the governor come out and said when things are going to reopen, or is this really still kind of in flux?
Here's the thing: we're going to probably know more tomorrow. He usually does his press conferences on Wednesday, so we're all waiting. I mean, I can't answer a Tuesday question when his Wednesday answer is going to be coming. Unfortunately, I'm not a psychic, so yeah. But next week we'll give you a good indication what's happening.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. And again, thank you for the time, Vern.
Oh, you're welcome. Anytime.
Wow. Well, that was a pretty good look into what we can expect next week. So thank you so much, Ace, for arranging that. It was great to hear some insider knowledge, you know. I mean, because like I said, we can speculate and, you know, say whatever we want to, but it's nice to have someone that kind of feet on the ground, kind of seeing what's going on and giving us, you know, the feel of what the vibes they're like in Vegas right now.
It was a pleasure talking with him.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Fortunately, we will record every week, so we can bring him in post a little bit after, just to kind of get his idea once free agency settles down. And, you know, fortunately, we do have the NFL schedule expected to be released on May 9th, so we are going to have some options there to kind of maybe play around with some things that he's seeing, maybe some early betting lines coming out. But personally, I know at the end of after the Super Bowl, they release the opponents so you get to see who your team plays, and you can kind of speculate, you know, what games you want to go to, or some cool matchups and what might be prime time and all that kind of stuff. But when the actual schedule is out, it just makes it feel so much more real. It's like a small holiday for me.
Most definitely, and I'm eager to see some of these matchups, but I'm also nervous too at the same time, because I don't know if other states or cities are going to hop on this, but I know the mayor of LA said that he didn't want sports at all this year, at least with fans, I should say. But
look at their teams, would you?
No, that part makes me nervous. But and what another thing is, don't they normally release the schedule like in April? Isn't it usually before the draft even too?
No, I think it's post-draft, because I'm almost positive it's always post-draft. But yeah, like I said, the opponent's already released, so it's just kind of how they line everything up, and you know, and I feel like, yeah, it's like I feel like it's the second or third week in May most of the time. So I'm pretty sure that's still on schedule. That hasn't been postponed. And Goodell, as staunch as ever, the quiet leader we love and to lead us, he still hasn't mentioned anything about any delays or anything like that. I mean, we have the virtual OTAs and all that fun stuff. So, I mean, as far as we know, NFL is going to continue on. So, I mean, that's a positive. And I know that most of the states are kind of winding down, at least, especially end of May, to kind of break all of the quarantine and the lockdown. So, hopefully, shortly after that, they can get back to doing what the teams do, especially after the draft, getting the rookies on the same page. Because I think that's probably the biggest hindrance, of having, the separation is, you draft, 5 to 9 rookies, and plus you have your undrafted free agents, all the other people you're pulling in off the street, and it's like, we need to see what these guys can do. So, and get them all on the same page, start playing with the, second, third, maybe first team offense, defense.
Yeah, preparation, going through the playbook.
New playbooks.
When they're going to have to be isolated instead of probably in a film room or something like that with the team. That's going to be tough for these rookies to be able to focus, I'm guessing.
Yeah, well, especially once those first paychecks start coming.
Gosh,
hold on, you want me to sit down and read this playbook? Wait a minute.
I know. I'm curious to see the Vikings schedule because I don't remember what division we play this year out of the AFC. I think it might be the East, which means we're gonna miss obviously Tom Brady, but whatever.
Actually, I haven't looked at the opponents in a while. That's something to think about. And the nice thing is too is that so last year I coordinated with some of my college friends. We did kind of like a Wisconsin sports extravaganza where we tried to do like a Brewer game, a Badger game, and a Packer game all in a weekend. And like if it's earlier in the year, then you might be able to get the Brewer game. If it's later in the year, they might be able to squeeze a Bucs game in there. So as soon as that schedule comes out, that's like the first thing I'm gonna do. I'm gonna draft up a spreadsheet and try to get everybody lined up, try to get the logistics down.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, it's awesome. Oh, it's not as hard as you might think. You'd be surprised at how well things line up.
How long have you been doing that?
The main thing is to give people options. I've been thinking about it maybe, I don't know, a couple of years. I was like, oh my gosh, that'd be so cool. And I was like, yeah, but like the schedules, man, like how are they going to sync up? Like how is that going to work? Last year is when, like, I think it was, I don't know, maybe June. I literally just sat down and made a spreadsheet of all the schedules for all Wisconsin sports. And I'm like, okay, we can do this weekend, those games. And the thing is, my buddy lives in Milwaukee. I live in Madison. So that way we don't have to worry about lodging really. We just have to find, typically we just hang out after the Green Bay game. Someone has to sober up and then we drive back to Milwaukee. So no, I'm not even joking. The schedule release, it's a big deal. And then there's a few years in a row where the Packers played the Panthers. My family lives in North Carolina, so I was able to coordinate some of that stuff. So it's nice just to get, the friends, family involved and kind of just put something on the calendar to look forward to. And that, and I think the best part is when you see how the end of the season shakes out, because then you'll have like the 2 to 3 back-to-back divisional games that possibly could decide the division. You know?
That's what I love with the new schedule format, the change of that they did a few years ago.
Yeah, and that's always nice too, because typically, we'll have like, it'll be like Lions, Bears, Vikings, Team A, Team B, Vikings, Lions. Like it'll all be kind of bunched up, kind of backloaded, so that it's a lot more competitive. Maybe not so much in our division anymore because the Bears are, I don't know, they seem kind of rudderless, and the Lions are the Lions. But at least the Vikings and the Packers are making things interesting down the stretch. So that's always fun too.
Real quick, there are some golf dates. So golf was one of the first sports, or I think the first one to release an updated schedule. They're going to be kicking things off at the Charles Schwab Challenge, which I think I mentioned a couple weeks ago that this would be the first one back. And good news, well, I guess for the first 4 tournaments, there's going to be no fans, but good news, the 3M Open in Blaine, Minnesota, TPC Twin Cities, July 20th through the 26th, may potentially have fans, so I might be going to that. We went last year, and it's fun. It's a good atmosphere out on the course. I mean, you're walking around with a beer, just watching guys hit golf balls.
Yeah, and there's no real itinerary or schedule. You just go to whoever you want to watch.
Yeah,
there's either that or you can just follow the cheers. I mean, it's pretty much you kind of go at your own pace,
Yep.
do what you want to do. If you are bored with everything and you want to go look at merch, you can go look at merch. Like,
if you're a golf fan, I highly
whatever you
recommend
want.
going to a tournament near you because it's kind of a surreal experience because
For
you're
sure.
watching professionals within 5 feet. You could literally touch them on some holes because they hit it into the rough. So
I would recommend not doing that though.
Yeah.
So we have a little bit more NFL news here before we get to the greatest part of the podcast. Von Miller tests positive for coronavirus this
Ugh.
week.
He's quarantined.
I mean, I know early on there was a ton of NBA players that were getting into contact and coming and contracting the virus, but now we get a very prominent NFL figure that gets it. Who, I mean, as far as anybody knows, it's not like he was going out and clubbing and hanging out with a bunch of people. So it's a little worrisome.
Oh my gosh, really?
Definitely raised my eyebrow
Yeah,
a little
that's
bit.
stupid. I love how some people still think they're immune to it.
Yeah, but Vaughn doesn't really strike me as that kind of arrogant guy. Like he's pretty down to earth. Like the glasses aren't just a costume. Like he's actually just like a chill, laid back dude. But I know I teased this earlier, but we gotta bring in the hook here. Rob Gronkowski was traded to the Bucs.
No.
Gronk and a 7th traded to the Bucs. So, I joke that Tampa Bay was now New England South. I mean, it's really starting to feel like they just got together just to troll Patriots fans, and I could not be happier. I have a little kid grin right now and beaming with excitement because it's just funny.
How many years left does James White have? Could they pick up him or Burkhead or?
Oh, come on now. Yeah, it's unfortunate they don't have a defense, but I know that Twitter's basically broken right now. But there was a tweet earlier just kind of listing out the Bucs offense right now, and it looks just.
Did you ever
nasty.
think that he was done playing when he retired? Did you think he was? Because I didn't think so. I kind of had that hunch, like, if he gets the right opportunity.
Just because of his natural athleticism, it was kind of hard to wrap my head around it. But I'm not sure if you. I don't know. I have an obsession with Shark Tank, and him and his brothers were actually on Shark Tank. They pitched a product for their company, and they actually got it picked up by one of the sharks. So that was my only inkling that maybe this is legit because he's actually looking at other options. And I know a lot of people were talking about like, oh my gosh, he's going to be in movies, he's going to do wrestling. Like there were all these different things, that were put out there. And I'm like, well, damn, maybe he could actually just be done and he could just do commercials and all this kind of stuff. You don't have to stick with Tide Pods, man. He's can
done all
out.
that. What's funny is he's literally done all that too. He's been in like the wrestling ring.
Oh yeah, but that's the thing. I was thinking that maybe he could just go and just keep doing that as opposed to because I mean you got to admit, man, he put a lot of damage on his body in a very short amount of time.
And that was the one thing where it's like, dude, this isn't a smart decision for your career or for your health long term. But whatever.
Yeah, well, now, obviously this is pending a physical, so, I mean, the joke could be on us by the time this publishes and he fails the physical, but I don't really foresee that. But the offense now, we have Tom Brady, Ronald Jones, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Gronk, O.J. Howard, and Cameron Brate. Like, that is a star-studded list, and that was the main reason he wanted out of New England, because they didn't have anyone around him. Like, he had the stable of running backs he was throwing to because they weren't really running effectively. I know Sony Michel played really well. James White's, you don't even need to go on about him. But, there just wasn't other, it was pretty much just Edelman. They didn't really have a tight end option. The line wasn't doing that well. So I get it. But I am really excited because I know you worked very hard. So we should just get right into it. We need to get into the Aces quick 6 of the week.
So the topic today is it's a 6-on-6 NFL matchup, and defenses aside, this is only offense. We could do next week defense if I really wanted to, but point is it's 6-on-6. The teams were divided up based on the state that the players were born in, and this is likely the top 6 states with the most talent, I would say, too. And so what I did is one quarterback, 2 to 3 receivers, 2 to 3 running backs, given some, and then I picked some tight ends just because Ertz and Kelsey, they need to have a home. Uh, yeah.
Spoiler.
What's interesting? I'll read them off. First state, California. We have Aaron Rodgers quarterbacking. I bet you thought this one's tough because obviously Tom Brady or Rodgers, but Rodgers being younger, got to go with him. Running backs, Joe Mixon, Damian Williams. Oh, you're going to love this receiving core. You could probably already guess one of them. Devontae Adams and Michael Thomas. and tight end Zach Ertz is from California, apparently. So this team is loaded. But
wow.
Florida is the second team for this 6-on-6 league. Lamar Jackson at quarterback. Your running backs, Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry. Your receivers. So this one I had to choose 3 receivers because, let's see, the closest tight end out of Florida was Jeff Heuerman. I've never even heard of him. Or Trey Burton for Chicago.
Must start in all fantasy
yeah, Trey
leagues.
Burton for Chicago. I'm like, So the receivers, T.Y. Hilton, Amari Cooper, and Calvin Ridley. That's pretty loaded too.
Yeah, but those 2 running backs though, that is wow. That's some power.
Well, here, speaking of now another loaded running back field, Georgia, the third state for the 6-on-6 league. Deshaun Watson, QB. We got running backs Nick Chubb, Alvin Kamara, Aaron Jones, and then wow. Now that I look at this, only one receiver, Tyreek Hill.
That's all you need with those running backs.
And then
that's all
tight
you
end
need.
Evan Ingram, who I think is going to be a stud for the Giants.
You know, in my Giants Madden franchise, he was a monster, but you just got to stay healthy.
So this is the only questionable QB out of the 6 states. It's out of Louisiana, Dak Prescott, and it's mainly because it was either Louisiana or Alabama with Phillip Rivers, because there's just not enough depth at the other positions. So running backs.
Mm-hmm. Got to go young.
Yep.
Go with you.
Yeah, running back Leonard Fournette and Darius Geis. And then 3 receivers, Odell, Jarvis Landry, and DJ Chark.
I mean, that's not terrible.
It's not bad.
It's not terrible. Although Fournette is just trade bait right now before the draft, so he probably is going to get dealt before this is.
Yep.
Yeah.
Ohio.
Yeah. That's.
I didn't realize. I didn't realize Ohio. Russell Wilson was born there. So we got Wilson. We got the 2 running backs, Le'Veon Bell and Kareem Hunt. Wide receivers are Ted Ginn and Devin Smith. But doesn't matter when you got Travis Kelce at tight end.
There it is. Can you even count Hunt yet? I mean, really?
Yeah, and
maybe as a kicker, but I mean too soon.
And that's the thing. Like Russell, I had to choose Russell. So.
Oh yeah.
This one kind of hurts too. The last one, it's Texas. Texas has Pat Mahomes at quarterback. I don't think there's much debate over that. Even though there's a plethora. I mean, Matt Stafford, Drew Brees, Ryan Tannehill, a lot of quarterbacks. Running backs, Adrian Peterson. Actually, I only have one running back, Adrian Peterson. I almost put Rex Burkhead in here, but that's how low I had to go.
Yeah.
But at receiver, we got Mike Evans, Emmanuel Sanders, and Cole Beasley. Mike Evans is sexy. And then at tight end, this is kind of a stretch, but Vance McDonald.
Oh, I mean, red zone target. That's not horrible.
With Mahomes, it doesn't really matter. But which is it? Is it obvious which team you'd go with, or is it? What do you think?
I'm old school, man. I'd have to go Georgia. The Georgia team. Yeah. The running backs for California, or the wide receivers for California are nice, but I'm old school.
Really?
Pound the rock.
Okay.
Got to go with the running backs.
I mean, when you got Nick Chubb, Alvin, who can catch it out of the backfield, and Aaron Jones, that's pretty stacked.
I thought Especially if you gave me 3, like, yeah, I'm gonna have to go with that. Especially since those guys are still young,
feeling
too.
You might lean toward Florida because Lamar, Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, T.Y., Amari, and Calvin, that's... Man. I mean, there's really no wrong answer, I guess, too.
No, that was cool. That was very unique. And I could hear you going through your little notebook. So
Oh, God.
we knew the effort was there. That was
Thanks.
awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, sir. All right. Well, we are out of time for this week. Thank you all again for listening. Like I said before, if you're not already following us on Twitter, we're at AA Podcasts. Every platform you could ever want. Apple, Spotify, Google, everything in between. Also on YouTube. So shortly after we post it on the other platforms, we'll get up on YouTube for you guys. Appreciate you always again for listening. I am Johnny. With me always is Ace, and we are out.